Welcome back to Heartland Arms, your source for education and firearm training. Today we are going to cover your surroundings. What is around you? What's going on around you? Um, Now, anybody who has had anybody in police department, military, any kind of where they've had a dangerous job. Um, if you've been in the mafia, there's issues that you have when you go through and you have to check your surroundings, um, and there's a double-edged sword with this. And I'll start with saying I don't know how many times we've gone to a restaurant, and my son who sits right next to me can confirm this, and my wife can too. We'll go to a restaurant, and it if I'm in the front or the back, it doesn't matter. Everybody goes in there and everybody stands for a minute because I can't have my back toward the door. I don't like that, right?
You are right.
Okay. So I like to know what's coming. I like to have and I use mirrors, I use windows, I use different ways to get around a lot of that. But if you've been with military, police officer, if your guy's in the mafia and you don't know it, you guess what? We just spoiled that for him. You just have to be aware of your surrounding of what you're going on. Um, I don't know. I love my wife loves the Pokemon game. And don't get me wrong, I like it too, but I even the game had to say, hey, be aware of your surroundings.
And don't trespass.
Yeah, yeah. So because people are down on their phone, not paying attention, and that's the world we live in. So many people are so into this phone or that device that they're on that they pay no attention to what's going on. They don't know if there's a threat around them or what's going on. It's crazy. Now, in what that really means is you have to be able to observe your surroundings without being without looking paranoid, without drawing attention to yourself, or anything like that. So when you go in there, you don't want to go in there because then you look like a crazy person, right? So it's all about subtle. When I go in, I'm gonna I could quickly scan the room. I know what's going on. I also will scan the room for um, and I hate to say it this way, but I'm looking at if we're in a restaurant and it's July and I'm looking around for anybody that has like hoodies, sweaters, jackets, or anything else on. Because those are generally good ways of concealing something. And if it's that hot outside, that's a red flag to me. Okay? That's just kind of the way it is. Um, you just get used to surveying a room and looking around and seeing if anything is out of place, doesn't look right, and that it's different than it's not really a profile. You're trying to pick up on clues on what's going around the room. Anybody who's been in the room has walked into a room. If you looked around, you've probably looked around and go, "Ooh, that couple in the back is having an argument. They're fighting." Okay, I'm gonna store that for knowledge. Okay, because if something goes wrong, that's where I can see a potential threat. Um, Facial cues. I'm gonna look at people's facial cues. If I come in and someone's mad dogging me, okay, what? I don't know this guy. Do I know this guy? Do I not know this guy? Why is he looking at me like this? That's kind of a red flag. There's little bits of stuff like that you're gonna go through. You're also going to go into a room, and it's happened to me, where I walk in a room and I scan the room, and as I walked in, I'm a new possible threat to this guy. So he's looking, going, okay, and he sees I scan. You get, and you might do a little head nod. Oh, okay. I know what he's doing. He knows what I'm doing. Okay. Now, that could be a friend or an ally. If it hits the fan, I saw that this guy kind of had some skills there. It's really subtle, but I picked it up. So all of a sudden, if someone tries to rob the place, if someone comes in, if we're on a bank and it's a bank robbery, um, I don't know if that guy's a bank robber. I don't know if he's an ally, and it will be determined really quick. That's why you don't want to be obvious about what you're doing too. You don't want to be, you're like, don't do that. That's a dead getaway. So now that bank robber goes, oh, okay, well that guy's had some kind of training or something, or is a complete dumbass, and let's take him out first. Don't get yourself in that situation. You also want to understand where your exit points are, your checkpoints, your safe paths. There's things that you're doing when you're going through there that you want to. If I have to get out of here in a hurry, how many different ways do I have? What do I have to go through? Is there anything that covers me as I'm making that escape? So there's a lot of factors that go through there. Is there any distractions that are going through? I don't recommend it, but if the place is starting to get, someone comes in and robs the bank, right? And I need to get away, and I just happen to be standing by the fire alarm, I may pull that, have the sirens go off as he's turning around, I could make my escape. Remember, I'm not just moving to move, I'm moving smart. That's what you want to do. And then I'm going to move to cover or move away if I have to. That's what you do especially when you know what's going on around you. It could be, you can spot unusual behaviors, you can get changes in normal patterns, you could see, as someone like, fidgety and they're kind of nervous. Is there something wrong there? If you're with a friend, you might have some code words that go back and forth. There's different things that you're going to have there. It's really what I do is when I go into somewhere and I haven't been there before, I give it a quick 5-second scan. It's just a really quick scan, and I normally will cover it as I'll go in, and as we're getting moved to the table, one of the first things I'll do is, I'd like to wash my hands before I sit down at a table. So, hey, where's your restroom? I want to go wash my hands. By doing that, I get a good layout of the whole place. I think at this point, my son that's sitting right next to me has realized that I've been doing that this whole time, and I use it as a cover to scan a room.
I have.
So there's a lot of stuff there. Any movement you're going to do, you want with intention. So my intention is go wash my hands, but I'm using that to see generally who's in the restaurant walking around, and anybody that looks at me goes, oh yeah, he's just going to use the restroom. No big deal. When you're outside, who's around, what's around. This is where you get a lot of, and I'm a big believer of kind of keeping your neighborhood safe. And I won't normally approach somebody unless I absolutely have to. So if someone was sitting in front of my house per se, this is my surrounding. I know my surrounding. When I see a strange car that I don't know out there, I like to either sometimes make my presence known and say, hey, we see you, we're watching, and if you're up to no good, I now can identify you, and that normally will scare someone off. Now, if someone was, I see the First Amendment auditors doing this, and I'll mention it here because that's knowing your surrounding too. If you see someone taking public photography or they're taking videos, you don't have to like it. And if you don't like it, don't go there or go inside the restaurant. Don't sit on the patio. That's what I would recommend. Um, there's nothing wrong with asking them, hey, I really don't, if you don't want them and say, hey, can you do me a favor and not get us on camera? You can do that, but when you do that, you're going to probably put yourself on camera. If you approach the person with a camera, they're going to probably point it at you because they don't know what your intentions are either. Um, but if you tell, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you know, hey waiter, can yeah, I know they're videotaping. Can you see if can you ask them not to videotape us? And they can ask. You can always put the ask out there. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're out in public, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You're going to have to deal with it. Um, and then trying to infringe on their rights is not a good idea either. As much as some of them can be annoying, I'm with you on that. Um, we a lot of stuff that we do for the podcast and with all our shows that we do for our shows, we have to go out in public and we get B-roll footage and stuff like that because if I want an image up, I want to own the image and I want to be able to use it for my use. So we might have to go out and get B-roll footage for numerous different reasons, just to be out in out and about in public. So we'll do that. Now, I also would like to respect other people's, you know, wishes to a certain extent. Um, it's a fine line. But I also got to understand that when I go out there, there are people that are not going to be happy. I have to know my surroundings for that too. And if I am carrying a firearm, tear gas, pepper spray, a taser, anything like that, knowing your surrounding and someone not liking what I'm doing out there, I might have to look over and say, "Oh, I'm videoing here. That guy was from down the street, and he was not happy. So now he's approaching me very very fast. He has a clenched fist, and he's moving quick. Is he going to hit me? Is he going to do something like that?" That's part of knowing your surrounding as well. You have to know, what's going on around you. And here's the big thing with this too. Knowing your surrounding. So if I see this guy coming up, I could, if I notice him quick enough, I could turn around and say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, buddy, well, And he goes, hey, I didn't like you taking pictures. Hey, I'm sorry. And I might say, you know what, I'm not even sure I'm going to use that footage, you know. And if you have any problems, you know what, if you don't feel comfortable or just call the police. I might be able to de-escalate it before it becomes a problem. Because if I'm not paying attention, I might get sucker punched. And then if he sucker punches me and then he pulls out a weapon, I've got to pull out a weapon, and that's a bad situation for everybody. He's not going to go home, and I'm going to be hours at the police station that I don't want to deal with. I mean, plain and simple. I don't want to do that. That's why people, when people harass a lot of the police officers, you could take pictures of them, and I understand if they're doing their job. If they're harassing you, then you get to harass them. That's the sorry. It's not sorry. But if you're purposely going out there to harass them and make their lives worse on purpose, that is, I'm sorry, I'm not with you on that. I think you're stirring the pot. I understand, again, sometimes what is legal to do might not be right to do. And conversation does that. And knowing your surrounding knows that as well. Those police officers have to know their surrounding. So when they have someone videotaping, don't get me wrong, it's a protected act. But if they're too close, you got to understand that you put yourself in that police officer's position. I'm dealing with possibly a bad situation. Police officers get attacked and people don't want to go to jail and fight them all the time. Last thing I really want to do is worry about some guy on a camera getting a little too close while I'm trying to deal with this and causing a distraction. So that police officer gets distracted and all of a sudden that guy goes, oh, this is my opportunity, pulls out a gun and shoots the cop. You see, that's where the problem is. And that's also why I would recommend not approaching a police officer. And there's rules. I would say you want to make sure you're 10, 15 feet back. And I will tell you, the knowing your surrounding is if I see a guy and I have a firearm on my hip and it's holstered, and a guy pulls out a knife 21 feet away, if I don't take a move away from them, if that guy charges me and I don't move or take any kind of action to distance myself, even pulling my firearm, if I just stand there, he's charging me, I pull my firearm, he's going to stab me about the same time I'm going to shoot him. Which means chances are both of us are not going home. One of us, or if not both of us, are going to the hospital, morgue, one or the other, not going to like it. And possibly even the police station too. So don't recommend it. So 21 foot is that rule for a knife. And if you don't step back and do that, so you got to understand that a police officer is trained that way. They know that. So if you're within 21 feet of them and they don't know who you are, that couldn't be a distraction to them and you could cause problems with them. I'm all for videotaping police and getting them and holding them accountable, but I'm also wanting to do it safe for you and for them. You might not like what they're doing, but sometimes they're doing a job. Are there bad cops out there? Yes. Are there good cops out there? Yes. Are there good people with a camera? Yes. Are there bad people with a camera? Unfortunately, yes. So knowing your surrounding isn't just about who's around, it's about who's not around, what's around, objects that are around. There's a lot to absorb when you're talking about your surroundings. So keep that in mind. If a police officer comes through and goes and moves and adjusts, that's why I recommend a police officer have a secondary officer that maybe they're watching, their back for the camera guy. That's fine. There's no reason to go up to the camera guy. If you say, oh yeah, he's back there, he's filming, obviously that's what he's doing. You just want to keep an eye on him, keep an eye on him. That's fine. There is no reason to go approach him, ask him for ID if he's done nothing wrong. Just my opinion on there. I'm hoping that would help defuse both sides a little bit here, because when you lose that communication, and I hate to, Charlie Kirk said it best. When you start losing that dialogue and that discussion, that's when violence starts to happen. And that's what I would like to try to avoid as well. So make sure you like, subscribe to our show. The algorithms don't like us. I hope you guys do, and you could override those with the likes and the follows. We're on all podcast players, social media. YouTube is one of our biggest, we're trying to grow as much as possible. So like, follow, subscribe, and we got you covered.